Up next is a fireside chat with UOB's Mr. Frederick Chin, a visionary leader who has guided countless businesses in navigating and seizing opportunities in ASEAN. Now, before he joins us on stage, we would like to share a video spotlighting Fred in an interview with Bloomberg Media as he shares his thoughts on ASEAN becoming a pivotal gateway for business. Today, you are amongst the first to watch this video and hear Fred's insights firsthand, a perspective that will soon reach 22 million affluent adults and 15.5 million decision makers across Asia through Bloomberg's platforms. Now, let's take a look.
Global economy is getting very complex. I remain optimistic in ASEAN.
We're speaking with Frederick Chin from UOB, who has over 35 years of experience in ASEAN. Fred shares his perspective on the ASEAN opportunity and what that means for businesses today. Fred, how can businesses make the most of ASEAN's role as a gateway to growth?
First, ASEAN no longer just a manufacturing hub. It is a hub for storage, fulfillment, and distribution. Second, evolution of digital and adoption on AI. The third, as we transition towards green economy, we see a lot of investment potential.
How do global businesses view the region right now?
We see there's a trend where Malaysia and Thailand emerge as a potential regional center. We still see a strong uptick in Indonesia, Vietnam, and Singapore for consumption economy. Of course, Singapore remains the main hub to attract big investments. ASEAN will play a critical role for the China Plus One strategy.
What advice would you give to global companies, be it in Europe or the US, who are looking to come into ASEAN and make the most of this moment?
You need a very strong partner who understand the region, to navigate the diverse culture, manage the foreign currency risk, and also the disordering of the supply chain financing. This year, we are celebrating our 90th anniversary. So we know this region deeper than most people because we are present in all of these countries. Over the years, we partnered with a lot of customers. We've been instrumental in helping them to navigate and build resilience in their business.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Frederick Chin, Head of Group Wholesale Banking and Markets at UOB, on stage. And I may once again call upon Mr. Heng Koon Hao, who will be moderating this fireside chat.
Ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for this second half of Gateway to ASEAN. We have with us Mr. Frederick Chin, Head of Group Wholesale Bank and Markets. Fred, as we affectionately call him, right, has more than 40 years of experience in the banking sector. Now, those of us who know him will know that, Fred is not afraid of this new Trumpian world, this very multipolar world of uncertainties and trade tariffs. Now, in fact, Fred doesn't see deglobalization as a very negative word. He sees it as positive with lots of opportunities and growth for trade across Asia and ASEAN. So, ladies and gentlemen, can we please have a big round of applause again to welcome Fred, please. Can we turn on Fred's mic, please?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Koon Hao, for the kind introduction. In today's turbulent world, I'm very happy and excited to be here to talk about the reshaping of the supply chain pathways and unlocking the ASEAN potential. You have to bear with me because I'm going to borrow some of the pointers that my CEO, in his opening speech. So look at ASEAN, there's vast potential, it's still one of the fastest growing region with 3.7 trillion US dollar GDP, and is forecast to be fourth largest economy by 2030. It remains the top FDI destination with 220 billion in 2024, and again is projected to reach 350 billion in a short time. So if we think about that and how UOB, over the last 5 years, we have helped over 5,000 companies invested in this region with over 50 billion and created about 250,000 jobs. I see this trend to be accelerated by a stronger, more integrated ASEAN, and with increasing connectivity to China and the rest of the world.
So UOB has helped, over the past 5 years, 5,000 companies generate close to 50 billion Sing of FDIs into the region and created around 250,000 jobs. I think when we speak to all the business leaders in this room and from the earlier panels, there's one key recurring magic word, right? Whether it's nearshoring, onshoring, or localization. Everybody knows they need to do that to be near to their customers in ASEAN. Fred, what do you think are the key, action points or strategies for nearshoring?
First, I think there are 4 immediate driving factors that's caused a shift in the supply chain. First, today, the geopolitical flux and tariff uncertainties. Second, I would say the intense economic rivalries between the US and China for dominance. The third, post-COVID, there was a quite clear shift in the supply chain from cost and efficiency to resilience and trust. And the fourth, today consumers' expectations are very high.
Yep.
So they expect speed, and they're also going green. So these are 4 driving forces that you see causing the shift in some of the supply chain dynamic. The word nearshoring has been spoke quite a lot in recent days. I see nearshoring as a strategy to probably achieve 3 objectives I can think of. First, the business continuity. To address these tariffs, disruptive actions is unilateral. The second, I would say, to diverse markets, to diversify the markets, to avoid this over-concentration relying on one big market. And the third, supply chain traceability because of the new tariff regulations to catch transshipment and intermediate goods. So this local production, more centralized nearshoring, more holistic, will probably achieve 1, if not 3 of these objectives.
Indeed. So I think Fred mentioned quite a few very interesting points here. And this is the struggle a lot of the businesses have when they try to implement, nearshoring or onshoring, which is how do you balance between security, reliability, and speed versus cost at the other end? If I can ask you very pointedly, Fred, is there no way to balance this?
It is very difficult for survival today. To build a continuity and security, it probably take priority over cost in the immediate future.
So things will get more expensive.
Things will get more expensive, but over time, you might see another consolation. And with the diversity and with scale, you potentially and technology potentially might realize the three objectives you're talking about, continuity, security, and cost in an ideal, optimal way.
Indeed.
But it takes time. But today, ASEAN is just not a manufacturing hub. As we talk a lot today. So if you don't mind, I will shift a little bit to highlight where I see ASEAN present more than manufacturing hub potentials. So if you think, there are really three drivers I see ASEAN that shift and provide this optimism that I have about ASEAN. Okay. First, you talk about is how you approach in a market like that. So I will ask business leaders to consider, to take a strategic capabilities driven approach to partnerships and or acquisition to scale. Maybe easier for me to cite an example, please. In the nickel industry, China is the largest producer of stainless steel and EV cars, while Indonesia is the largest, more than half of the world production of nickel ore. To make Indonesian government ban on export of nickel ore, we saw the Chinese investor in the upstream. At the same time, they formed joint venture with the Indonesian company for the downstream. This is what I saw a new opportunity is really a win-win proposition. That raised industry potential from a 6 billion export to over 30 billion US dollar today. The second, with the digital world, company are embracing digitalization to provide insights. Of course, you need to balance with reduced cybersecurity and data privacy risk. There's a huge investment in technology and AI, including banks today, to refine strategy, to find new growth, and improve productivity. The data center has been built across the regions to meet the growing demand for compute and storage. So I think AI will be a game changer for the early adopters as they refine the strategies, improve productivity, and more importantly, will start to learn how to monetization of the data. So tremendous opportunities. Of course, last, we've been emphasizing a lot to drive investment in ESG to make climate change. So today, for instance, Singapore is committing to buy 6 gigawatts of renewable energy. And we have no energy resources. Right? But however, our neighbors have plenty, abundant of renewable energy, either from hydro, geothermal, solar, or wind. So the opportunity to realize the ASEAN grid is become real and imminent. Because all the changes. So therefore, I'll summarize, other than manufacturing hub, we talk a lot about supply chain shift. There are 3 driving forces will create the optimism that I have about ASEAN future.
So besides manufacturing, you have the mining industry across the whole EV chain. You have basically AI data centers, and of course, all the new ESG frontiers. Fred, I want to move the conversation a little bit to China. Right? When we talk about ASEAN, we cannot not talk about China. Clearly, the relationship between China and ASEAN is changing, and clearly the relationship between ASEAN and China is changing. right? It's no longer just a straightforward, as you say, manufacturing relationship. So how do you think things have evolved now in this new geopolitical landscape? And would there ever be a win-win partnership going forward between ASEAN and China?
To me, it's a very encouraging, positive trend. With this global shift in supply, we already seeing Chinese companies shifting productions into ASEAN. It's really for two purposes I saw. One is to diversify the risk. Second, market access. To take advantage of the multilateral free trade agreement that ASEAN has signed with many, many countries.
Yes.
Right. Also, with the step up recent government G2G, we saw much stronger collaboration and the improvement in economic ties. And we already see the evidence in increasing investment and commerce between China and ASEAN. So therefore, I think the trend is shifting to present a lot of opportunities, but at the same time challenges for ASEAN as well. So I would look at it as I share, it's quite obvious we see a win-win in the nickel industry in Indonesia. When they forge a complete partnership, one provide the markets, one provide the natural resources.
Indeed.
The other one we saw EV industries. On one hand, we saw EV industry shift. As Thailand used to be known for an auto industry center. So obviously Thailand, the first beneficiary for those shifts. And today just BYD is making 500,000 cars in Thailand. But on the other hand, they cause a disruption in the ICE motor supply chain ecosystems because not all the parts produced by the Thai suppliers are fit for EV cars. So you might see their adjustments and disruption, and you already see ICE car dealers are facing a difficult time.
Yep.
Yeah. So there are plus and minuses. So it's quite obvious to me for ASEAN companies, they don't have a scale or cost competitiveness. And we saw that not just in EV, it's quite evident. You're seeing that in petrochemical, you see that in steel, and you see that in textiles, where Chinese players are very competitive advantage. So therefore, you ask me, how do we face with these challenges? My advice is, can we find a similar win-win for nickel industry? And therefore, I would encourage our business people to start thinking how to find complementary partners where we can bring the best of China to ASEAN. And something they cannot have what the ASEAN businesses have, which is market access and distribution. So forming a complementary joint venture, I think will be win-win proposition for everybody. So I would suggest, company do the debt, and there will be fast and furious coming. So because they've been producing for 40 years as a production hub to the world. And there's recent survey by comparison to Europe and US, the tech manufacturing advancement in China is far ahead of any of these Western companies.
Yes.
And recently you just pick up Ford, the Ford company CEO. He wrote a big article after his trip to China.
Yes.
To him, is earth-shattering, the word he used. It's a matter of time. The US auto industry might extinct, he said.
The factories of the future in China.
Yeah.
So I guess Fred has been very polite in the words he chose, right? Cost effectiveness, win-win, efficiencies. In the macro numbers, we do see the challenges, meaning the Chinese supplies. Obviously, if you use the supplies correctly, it helps reduce costs. But then again, if you compete head on, you've got to be very cost effective. I guess that brings us to the next question. Clearly, everybody wants to be in ASEAN. There are opportunities as well as challenges, right? And the key request from a lot of businesses is how can we improve the regulation, the policies across the region to help our businesses better amidst the shifting sands?
Yes, ASEAN provide huge potential, but there is not without some strategic challenges. And I will just name a few. In today's ASEAN 3.7 trillion GDP, less than 30% are intra-ASEAN trade.
Yes.
And the reason really due to not just tariff, the non-tariff barriers. And the other challenges often been cited as a diverse ASEAN countries, we have a very diverse culture and language. And also we have a very inconsistent, I wouldn't say consistent because different country stage of the progress and the agenda. So we do have a very difficult regulation and policy navigations. So of course, coming to ASEAN, finding the right service provider is equally difficult and also important. So just name a few of these challenges. However, I'm quite encouraged with all these global uncertainties. The ASEAN government have taken more proactive to forge a closer collaboration. And I think governments will have to play a pivotal role in policy setting to help businesses and attract FDIs. And I do see three emerging opportunities that now remain the top of the ASEAN government agenda. First, they talk a lot about the upgrading the ADICA,
Yes.
which is ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement, I believe. That will substantially reduce the non-barrier barriers for intra-ASEAN trade. The other one they talk about is the DIFA, I think it's Digital Economic Framework Agreement, to unleash a $2 trillion market potential. And the third, the realization of ASEAN grid is become rare due to climate change. And Singapore government is taking the leading front to commit to renewable energies. And 6 billion gigawatt commitment, we're talking a lot of money.
Yes.
That will be a catalyst for the region economy. That will pull a lot of downstream industry and create job and increasing income. So I remain very optimistic. Now, therefore, I urge the government, it's the moment for them to step out and accelerate all these policy changes to enable the private sector to realize the full potential for ASEAN as a market.
If I may add to what Fred says, there's one more initiative across ASEAN, which is the ASEAN Common Carbon Framework, So if that works, and that will work eventually, we will work towards carbon neutral for all our region across ASEAN. Fast forward a few years, let's say all these things, ETICA, right, common electricity grid, carbon framework, or e-commerce all come into place. Do you think there will be a time where there is harmonious, manufacturing across ASEAN to the extent that we'll be like Europe, where we can have our pan-ASEAN product for the world that we can be proud of?
I think it's possible if only ASEAN can be united as one economic bloc. To get to a ASEAN global one product or one services, you need to have home market to create that base. What you saw whether in US, Europe, China. Therefore, you see a lot of emerging companies. They're producing things that are recognized as a one global product. So we will have that proud moment in years to come. But nonetheless, I'll switch. In the new economy, we're already seeing two champions. One in ASEAN, ride-hailing, a company probably not in existence 10, 15 years ago. Today, they dominate in the transport sector. The other one, e-commerce. And today, they're probably still the largest market cap for Singapore registered company. They are more than ASEAN. Today, they are present in Europe, Latam, and Taiwan. And they told me they decided not to go to America. Too difficult. So we do have a global ASEAN companies that I think ready to face the world and compete. So I'm still optimistic. But for manufactured product, I think, as I already said, the government need to provide an environment where ASEAN come in as a one united economic bloc to create that national champion.
So I think to share the success of the two companies, basically Grab, right, ride-hailing, and of course Shopee, which is e-commerce across ASEAN. I guess the change in lighting probably implies that our time for this panel is up, Fred.
Okay.
Maybe just a final question to you. Final words of wisdom for all of us here. Your vision for ASEAN, any positive takeaway?
Thank you. Very simple message. UOB is and will be your right trusted partner for your business in this region. As we celebrate UOB 90, I do want to take this opportunity to thank our client for your strong partnership and trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frederick Chin
Okay.
and Mr. Heng Kun Hao, for your insights.